In 2019, Dublin's north side areas of Coolock and Darndale experienced a surge of gang violence. In just 1 week in May, the community was rocked by the murders of 2 young men in related incidents. Now, years later, a Dublin court trial has finally lifted the lid on its origins, with a drug debt, a betrayal, and a chain of revenge that would turn local criminals against each other. This video will explore how a significant drug debt resulted in a brutal daytime killing, and the lengthy 6-year pursuit of justice that ensued. At the heart of the story is 22-year-old Jordan Davis, a small-time drug dealer and young dad from Darndale. Jordan found himself in deep trouble with a huge drug debt owed to a more experienced criminal. Evidence later presented in court revealed that he was referred to as Jordo on his supplier's debt lists, which tracked drug debts. The list discovered by the Gardaí showed Jordo owing a staggering €153,000 at one point. Even after making some payments, a later entry still indicated he had €70,000 left to pay, marked with not yet, showing the significant amount he still owed. Jordan's debts were to Robert Rue Redmond, a notorious criminal in Dublin's underworld. Redmond, in his late 30s, was a veteran gangster with 99 previous convictions, including armed assaults, extortion, and even a murder charge. He had been supplying drugs to younger dealers like Jordan on credit, anticipating big returns. However, when Jordan started falling behind on his payments, Redmond's patience wore thin. By the end of 2018, tensions were rising between them as Jordan struggled to settle his debts, making the situation increasingly perilous. By the end of 2018, things had taken a dangerous turn. In testimony given years later, Jordan's mother, Sandra Davis, described how the threats against her son escalated. Just after Christmas 2018, 2 men showed up at her family home in Coolock looking for Jordan. One was a huge man with dark hair and a beard, known by the nickname Smithser, and the other was Jordan's close friend, 22-year-old Sean Little. Little was someone Sandra knew from the neighborhood. Now he was standing in her living room, doing all the talking, and he was furious. Sean Little and Smithser, later identified as Cowlan Smith, a notorious cartel hitman, told Sandra that Jordan owed them €120,000 in total, an enormous sum, and they weren't leaving without the money. Little was enraged, calling Jordan a little and warning Sandra that if the debt wasn't paid, your son is going to be getting buried with your daughter. He didn't hold back on the threats either, warning that if the debt wasn't paid, she would be identifying Jordan in a coffin. When Sandra tried to reach Jordan, he replied with a text saying he was in the hospital, an obvious lie that only made Little angrier. Eventually, Cowlan Smith intervened to de-escalate, telling Little, "Leave it there, we should get out of here," and assuring Sandra that if she promised to talk sense into her son, they'd give Jordan a chance to sort it out. Before leaving, Smith told her, "I'm taking your word that you will sort this out." With that, the 2 gangsters drove off into the night, leaving Sandra shaken and furious with her son. After everything that happened, Jordan made an effort to pay off some of his debt. He promised to pay €5,000 each week, but he could only scrape together €3,000 because of his financial situation. By January 2019, he was still trying to make payments, but it wasn't enough to tackle the huge debt. The intimidation didn't stop. Sandra Davis recalled another frightening incident in March 2019. Late one night, she heard noises and realized there were 5 men outside her house. Suddenly, the gang began smashing the front of the home. Every pane of glass was shattered. One man yelled at her, "Tell Jordan to pay his bills. It's not over, we'll be back." Terrified, Sandra fled her home after that attack and never returned. She was very angry with Jordan for bringing this danger to their doorstep. Jordan was living in constant dread, looking stressed and pale as his mum noted. Then abruptly, Jordan's demeanor changed in the spring of 2019. Shortly after the March attack on his home, he suddenly appeared unworried, almost as if he believed the threat had passed. He mentioned that there was a suspicious individual in the area, a guy with North Face gloves going around the estate on an orange bike, but Jordan had been assured that this man wasn't looking for him. By May 2019, the criminal scene in Dublin was on edge. On May 21st, Sean Little, the same guy who had previously threatened Jordan over his debt, was lured to a secluded spot outside North Dublin. The 22-year-old was shot and found dead next to a burning car near the M1 motorway. Little was out for revenge for the murder of his friend Zach Parker back in January, another small-time drug dealer who owed cash to a fingerless gang linked to the Kinahan-Cartel. Little was a prominent figure in Coolock's criminal scene, closely linked to a gang leader from Finglas and the international Kinahan-Cartel. Gardaí believed his murder was a result of gang betrayal, likely motivated by his desire for revenge for his friend Zach Parker's earlier death. Zach, just 23, was shot on January 17, 2019, while parked outside a gym in Swords. He was a minor drug dealer who owed money to a Finglas gang known as the Gucci Gang, which is affiliated with the Kinahan-Cartel. He had lost a stash of drugs to the police and couldn't pay back the gang. Sean Little, a close friend of Parker, was reportedly eager to retaliate against those who killed him. Although no one was arrested right away for Little's murder, rumors and evidence later pointed to an unexpected suspect, Cowland Smith, the very person who had gone with Little to threaten Jordan's mother. Smith, a hitman for the Kinahan-Cartel, was suspected of betraying Little, possibly under orders to eliminate him to stop any revenge for Zach Parker's death. Just a day and a half later, on May 22nd, the ongoing conflict took another life. Despite numerous warnings, Jordan Davis was out strolling with his 4-month-old baby in a pram along a pedestrian path off Marigold Road in Darndale. A guy on an orange bike rode into the lane, approached Jordan and opened fire with a gun. 8 shots were fired. Jordan was struck at least 3 times and fell next to the pram. Thankfully, his baby boy was unharmed. Father Edward Quinn, who lived nearby, heard the gunfire and rushed over to assist. He gave last rites to Jordan, who had already passed away. This shocking daytime shooting happened just a short distance from both a primary and secondary school, where Jordan had once studied. That afternoon, while on a bus, Sandra, Jordan's mother, learned about a shooting in Darndale. Her phone buzzed with the heartbreaking news. Her niece informed her that Jordan had passed away. Just 36 hours after Sean Little's death, investigators quickly realized that these 2 killings were connected. But who was behind Jordan's murder, and what was the motive? At first, some thought it could be revenge for Little. However, as the trial unfolded, it became clear that Jordan was killed over the very debt that had always put him at risk. Just a few days later, Gardaí detectives pinpointed their main suspect, Wayne Spuddy Cooney, a 29-year-old from Tallaght. Cooney was not only linked to Robert Redmond, but also dating Redmond's younger sister Rachel. CCTV footage captured a guy on an orange bike cruising around the area in the days leading up to the murder. One Garda witness later claimed he was 100% sure that the man was Wayne Cooney. As the investigation progressed, they found some incriminating WhatsApp messages from Robert Redmond to Jordan just 19 days before the murder. "Effing clown that can't pay bills trying to be a big man. Trust me, I'll get you soon." Followed by, "Very soon bang bang," with laughing emojis. Jordan simply replied, "Nice one, mate." 19 days later, Redmond's eerie threat came true. The legal proceedings unfolded slowly over the next 6 years. In July 2022, Wayne Cooney, the shooter, was convicted of murdering Jordan Davis due to strong evidence against him. The court labelled him as extremely dangerous, resulting in a life sentence with a minimum of 13 years. Then there was Robert Rue Redmond. For a while, he might have thought he was in the clear. He wasn't at the scene of the shooting, and with both Jordan and Sean Little gone, he had taken care of a significant debtor and a risky associate. However, key testimony from his ex-girlfriend, Aisling McNally, placed Redmond close to the crime scene. She testified that she had dropped him off at Belcamp Lane near Darndale on the day of the murder and picked him up from a nearby location just minutes after the shooting. In April 2024, after a lot of evidence piled up, Redmond admitted to teaming up with Wayne Cooney to kill Jordan Davis. He got a 7-year sentence, which is pretty lenient, but since he was already doing life for a different murder back in 2020, he'll be behind bars for at least 19 years. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place during Rachel Redmond's trial in March 2025. Rachel, who is Wayne Cooney's girlfriend and Robert Redmond's younger sister, faced charges for obstructing the capture of a murderer. Her lifelong friend, Stacey Hayes, gave crucial testimony. On the day Jordan was killed, Stacey was driving with Rachel when Rachel got a call from Wayne, asking for a ride. Rachel told Stacey to drop him off at a bus stop in Clare Hall. When Wayne got in the car, Rachel brought up the shooting in Darndale, and Wayne just shrugged it off, saying, "It's a mad place." Later that evening, Rachel used her bank card to book a room for Wayne at the Clayton Hotel near Dublin Airport, a good distance from Coolock, to keep him hidden. Throughout the trial, Rachel insisted she had no clue Wayne had just killed someone, claiming she was just a lovesick girl helping her boyfriend. The jury, however, wasn't convinced. After 7 hours of deliberation, they found her guilty on both counts of hindering the investigation. The 2025 trial didn't just decide Rachel Redmond's future, it also revealed the harsh reality of a gang feud that had plagued Dublin's north side 6 years prior. What started as a drug debt escalated into a series of murders, leaving families shattered and communities in shock. Jordan Davis's case highlights how violence in Dublin's underworld can spill into quiet suburban areas. It illustrates how young men like Jordan can find themselves trapped in a vicious cycle of debt, drugs, and revenge, becoming both victims and offenders. After 6 long years, justice was finally served, with everyone involved, the shooter, the mastermind, and the accomplice, facing the music for their part in a crime that rocked the country. Beneath the sensational headlines and courtroom theatrics lies a grim reality. The drug trade continues to take lives across Ireland, not only through addiction but also through the horrific violence that comes with it. And that will be all for today's video. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications for more criminal gang stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.